Hello, my name is Sami. I am in 10th grade. I am from Sionskavaria High School, and I wanted to study how the wave patterns change under different conditions in a microwave oven. And I'll be presenting to you my study today. Please turn to slide 2. Project details. Microwaves are electromagnetic waves just like light. The goal of my project is to map and predict standing wave patterns in a microwave oven cavity using experiments under various conditions. Please turn to slide 3. Purpose of testing. My purpose of testing is that I want to map the standing waves in the microwave cavity experimentally. My idea is to use many different techniques and materials, as we will see in my presentation. I looked online but could not find another paper that has experimentally mapped a pattern in a microwave cavity. Please turn to slide 4. Hypothesis. I hypothesize I can map out the standing waves in the microwave. I also hypothesize that all the patterns will change based on the various materials used in the microwave. Before we begin, let me start by defining what waves are. Please turn to slide 5. Waves transport energy and information from one place to another. Some waves need a medium to do this. The medium itself does not get transported. Some wave properties include the wavelength, the amplitude, and the frequency. Please turn to slide 6. Electromagnetic waves. The energy released from all stars is some kind of electromagnetic wave. Radio waves, visible light, microwaves, infrared, and ultraviolet are all examples of electromagnetic waves. So we can find the type of electromagnetic wave by finding the wavelength, basically how long the wave is. Please turn to slide 7. Microwave ovens work by producing standing waves. The magnetron in the microwave produces the waves, which are then set up as a standing wave pattern in the microwave cavity. As you can see in the top left image, the waves start at the magnetron on the right side of the oven. When it reaches the other side, it reflects back. Multiple reflections from both sides set up a standing wave pattern, as seen in the top right image. The bottom picture represents the nodes and antinodes that are set up as a result of the microwave patterns. The nodes are the points with the least amplitude, and the antinodes are the points with the maximum amplitude. This means the nodes will be spots that are heated the least, and antinodes will be places where most heat is imparted to the food. Please turn to slide 8. How do microwave ovens work? As we saw before, microwaves are electromagnetic waves. The frequency of most microwave ovens is in the range of around 2500 MHz. Please turn to slide 9. What makes popcorn pop in a microwave? Water molecules inside the kernel turn to steam as the kernel heats up. This is due to the vibrations set up in the molecules from the absorbed microwaves. These vibrations cause the pressure inside the kernel to increase. Increased pressure causes the kernel to burst and we get popcorn. Please turn to slide 10. The materials I used for this project were a microwave oven, regular tape, plexiglass from Lowe's, a thermal camera, a ruler, a marker, a calculator, a glass bowl, a beaker, water, and a ceramic plate. Please turn to slide 11. Trip to Lowe's. In order to do this project, I had to come up with a way to map out the standing wave patterns. The easiest way, after many trials and errors, was to use plexiglass that we got from Lowe's, and a thermal camera, but the plexiglass had to be placed inside the microwave. So we came up with a grid design that uses only plexiglass to minimize the amount of material in the microwave. Please turn to slide 12, laser cut grid. Luckily, my brother was able to help me laser cut the grid pattern. On the left image, you can see the laser cutter at work. In the picture on the right is the final assembly of the grid pattern. It is worth noting that the dimensions of this grid are custom built for our microwave. Please turn to slide 13. This slide depicts the setup we came up with to hold up the thermal camera. If you note the picture on the left, I am holding a mirror to verify the camera is pointing in the right direction and that it is focused correctly. Please turn to slide 14. Plan test. So what we planned to do was to start with a plexiglass sheet at room temperature, put it at the set positions every time in the microwave, run the microwave for 2 minutes each, quickly remove the plexiglass sheets, and take the thermal camera image. Please turn to slide 15. As you can see in this slide, it was a 2-person job to set up the plexiglass grid, so I had my sister help me with it. If you take notice at the bottom of the middle image, we had to mark out where the placement of the plexiglass should be every time to make sure our tests were consistent. Please turn to slide 16. These pictures show how careful we had to be when moving the grid. We had to be careful because the grid was laser cut so precisely that it would fall apart if we were not extremely cautious. Please turn to slide 17. Here you can see me carefully moving the grid and placing it inside the microwave cavity. We made sure to mark the inside of the cavity with tape in order to ensure that the grid was placed at the same spot for all tests. Please turn to slide 18. This slide depicts me placing the grid into the microwave. Please turn to slide 19. Experimental setup. This is what the final setup of the grid looked like inside the microwave. Please turn to slide 20. Microwave view. This is the view from inside the microwave. The image also depicts what I will be calling layers 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 for the rest of my talk. Also note the glass bowl placement inside the microwave. We had to remove the turntable in order for the bowl and the grid to be placed inside the cavity. Please turn to slide 21. Experiment in progress. This is a picture that shows for every trial we had to wait 2 minutes while the microwave did its thing before we could take any pictures with the thermal camera. Please turn to slide 22. Trials, test 1. The first trial we did was using the following materials: a completely empty microwave, an empty glass bowl, a bowl with 500 milliliters of water, and a bowl with 1,000 milliliters of water. I will show you my data for each layer separately. Please turn to slide 23. Slide 23 shows the data for all 4 trials for the topmost layer called layer 5. As you can see here, there are many colors in these pictures. I will explain the different colors by the help of some other images shown in the next slide, slide 24. Please turn to slide 24. Understanding thermal images. It is important to note that each color that shows up on the thermal image correlates to a certain temperature. The larger the bar on the image on the left, the hotter that point is. We believe that the image on the right represents the standing wave in 3D that corresponds to the 2D thermal camera image, which you will see in slide 25. Please turn to slide 25. On this slide, the 2D image from the thermal camera and the 3D standing wave pattern are shown together. Please turn to slide 26. Data analysis. From many trials we conducted, we found that these are the temperature ranges for each color. The missing temperatures between each color were transitions from one solid color to another in which there were more than one color in the cursor view. These temperatures can vary slightly between trials or even in the same trial between spots, but this is generally where the temperatures ranged. The light blue does not have a cap to the range because this is when we stopped recording the data in the trials. Please turn to slide 27. Coming back to our trials, these are the results from layer 4. Please turn to slide 28. These are the results from layer 3. Please turn to slide 29. Layer 2. Please turn to slide 30. And layer 1. I want to make you aware that layer 1 for this trial was the layer that was closest to the water bowl. We found that since we had not covered the water in the first trial, we see a lot of heat centered at that one spot in the middle. We believe this is due to the evaporation of water resulting from the heating of the water molecules, so we had to abandon this trial. Please turn to slide 31. Despite the fact that we abandoned this data, I would like you to note the temperature reading that we got from test 1. Please turn to slide 32. Learning from our previous mistake, we repeated this test, but this time we made sure to cover our experimental setup with a ceramic plate to minimize the effect of evaporation. To test my hypothesis that different materials will change the standing wave patterns in a microwave cavity, please note that we did 2 different tests, one using the same glass bowl as before and the other using Pyrex beakers. It is worth pointing out here that because the beakers were taller than the glass bowl, we could not use layer 1 for this analysis. Please turn to slide 33. These are the patterns we observed for the top layer when we were using bowls and the beakers with different quantities of water. I would like you to note that most of these patterns appear to be very similar with the hotspots, the red areas, appearing around the same regions. Now, let's look at layer 4 on slide 34. Again, these patterns seem to be very similar to each other. Next, let's see what happens to layer 3 on slide 35. Layer 3, just like layers 5 and 4, seem to be very similar to each other. Please go to slide 36 where we will observe layer 2. Something interesting is happening with this layer. These patterns do not seem to be similar to each other. This is very interesting. Now let's see what happens with layer 1 on slide 37. Here, despite the fact that we had our bowl covered, we still see hotspots developing towards the middle of the sheet, which overwhelms any pattern that could have been formed. Also note, as I said before, we do not have any results for layer 1 because the beakers were too tall to allow for both the beaker and the plexiglass to be in the cavity simultaneously. Please turn to slide 38. Here is the temperature data from test 2. We see certain trends in the temperatures. For example, the beaker temperatures are on average higher than the bowl temperatures. I would also like to share that the glass bowl felt hotter to the touch than the beakers did. I could not hold the glass bowl without some kind of insulation, whether that be a towel or a cloth, whereas the beakers were bearable to be held in my bare hands. Please turn to slide 39. Conclusion 1. It appears that the top layers, 5, 4, and 3, are quite similar regardless of the material inside the microwave. However, layers 1 and 2 seem to be overwhelmed by the infrared heat radiated from the materials placed inside the microwave cavity. I also report that the glass bowl got hotter, whereas the beakers themselves did not get hot. This fact also reflected in the temperature difference of the plexiglass themselves. The temperature of the plexiglass when placed with the bowl was lower than the temperature of the plexiglass when placed with the beakers. Please turn to slide 40. Putting objects in the bottom of the microwave does not significantly change the microwave pattern at the top of the cavity. This gave me an idea to check what happens when I place the object at the top and compare it to when I place it at the bottom. So next, I did a quick test placing the object at the top and at the bottom, similar to this situation as shown in the picture of the microwave. Please turn to slide 41. This slide depicts the patterns of 300 milliliters of water when the beakers were placed at the top versus when they were placed at the bottom. As you can see, the patterns do not match each other. Please turn to slide 42. Whereas this slide shows the pattern where we placed 600 milliliters of water. Again, we observe no significant trends in these patterns. Please turn to slide 43. Conclusion 2. Placing objects in the bottom of the microwave significantly changes the microwave pattern as compared to the patterns produced when the objects are placed at the top of the cavity. Please turn to slide 44. Final conclusion. I had hypothesized that I can map out the standing waves in my microwave. And the answer to that is yes, I can map out the standing waves in my microwave. I also hypothesize that all the patterns will change based on the various materials used in the microwave. The top layers remain the same regardless of what is placed in the cavity. However, the patterns themselves change depending on the materials that are placed in the top or the bottom of the cavity. So I conclude that most of my hypotheses were correct. Please turn to slide 45. These are some of the books and papers that I used that I found extraordinarily useful when I was researching and developing my project. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed my talk.